Well, I've been on the asphalt for about half an hour, and as per usual, asphalt turns to gravel roads, and in this case gravel roads have turned into terrain tracks. And I'm right at the beginning of a 35-kilometre track that's going to take me to hopefully a pretty nice camp location by a lake. But as you can see around me, there's been a huge amount of rain over the last couple of weeks. A lot of rivers are swollen and a lot of these streams are kind of filling up, so I'm hoping this track doesn't get too swampy up ahead, because I can see on the map that it goes into quite a little bit of a swampy area, and I hope I don't get stuck. But I got the winch and all the other gear with me, so hopefully I should be okay. But I'm going to be out for a couple of days. I thought I'd take you along with me, and first things first, sway bar off and tyre pressure down. Nice bit of bulge. Everyone loves a nice bulge. Always a ton of rubbish everywhere you go. So far track's been alright, not been too bad, just been trundling along, no flooding, nothing too technical, no down trees. I mean, you never know when you come to places like this what you can find. Sometimes you find a huge tree down, sometimes a big washout, but yeah, so far it's been pretty nice. But it's obviously just slow going because it's so bumpy that you just can't like gun it down the track and you know, make some progress. But it looks like we're coming up to something here that looks a little bit boggy. That wasn't really anything to write home about. I started to think we were descending into the bogs of the eternal abyss, but yeah, it was nothing really, just it's a little wet patch. I think we're going uphill basically, and everything's kind of running down now, so I expect it'll dry out quite a bit. But here we go. This looks a little bit wetter. Okay, it's really flooded. Just going to dip my toe in. Well, it's getting squidgy, so it just depends whether what's under the squidgy is hard, but I might just get my recovery gear ready just in case. But there's absolutely nothing to winch off of. Still ain't got no struts yet. I made these panniers that can hang down like that, so I can have my recovery gear accessed pretty easily and not have to lock it because of the kind of locks I've got. But probably going to need these straps, maybe, hopefully not. And this stuff here, I'll chuck it down there, and the blankets. That should be it. sketching. I'm out of breath, by the way, not from the driving, but obviously I had to set the camera up, so I was running back and forth doing that kind of stuff, hence why I'm soaked. Well, that looks like most of that all done, and now it's back to gravel roads, which is cool. So we're going to make some distance on the gravel roads, and I think about another 20 kilometers and we'll be there. Well, here we are. Beautiful place. Probably could have relocked the sway bar just to get a bit of extra height there up the front instead of the axle articulating. Or maybe put some air back in the tyre, but to be honest, it looks pretty level to me. Well, just going to pull the plug on the old mattress so the X-Bed Mega Mat inflates. Nice to see all this bedding's really dry. It's been stored in here for quite a long time, actually weeks. Not that it's been outside, it's been in a garage, but I've still been out driving in the rain, you know, washed the vehicle, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, the tent clearly keeps the water out, which is important. So I'm going to open up some vents anyway. Just let some air circulate through. Got a little auxiliary line in here for the diesel heater. It's predominantly for the diesel heater, but I've kind of put the same plug on all the other external appliances too, like the pump for the mattress, you know, just because it makes sense to be able to use the same line. I'm just blowing up a mattress, not anything else, alright? Not tonight anyway. Feels good. Oh dang, it's gonna be a comfy night. The ARB warning. It's so easy to set up. I was going to have the awning room set up tonight, but I think I'm just going to be outside, a little bit nicer. Can't really be bothered to set it up. I'm only going to probably stay here for one night, and I think I'm going to find another location because, you know, maybe somewhere a bit higher altitude, bit of a view. But I've got these bags from Grab My Gear from Jim in Australia. They're really nice actually, and this is what me and Meg keep our clothes in. Spare pair of trousers obviously, because I had a feeling it was going to be wet. But I was carrying a little bag inside to put the dirty stuff in, and I just rotate it as I go. And then when this fills up, it's time to wash it. On a summer trip this time of year, it's a little bit difficult to do that, but I'll take a few things up in the awning room with me. The hat I'm keeping down here, some bed socks, and some clothes for tomorrow morning, like a shirt, some sexy underwear. Look at that, no skiddies on that one. Must have been a good day. And yeah, a pair of socks. Usually keep that up there, and I put it in the sleeping bag when I'm sleeping, so I sleep with my clothes. Not in a sexy way, but it just means that they don't kind of get condensation on them from my body, basically, because they're in the bag with me. I'm going to be testing out my diesel heater tonight. As you saw in the build episode, you may not have seen it, but I did a build episode on this, and now it's taking fuel from the main tank of the Jeep, being it's a diesel vehicle. And I got all this ducting here, and obviously I have an awning room. I've shown it in other videos. Oh no, I've got a failure already. Basically this goes on the end of there, just like that. And you've got this one here going into the rooftop tent, sort of up there. This one here goes into the bottom of the awning room, down here. And then you have another line here that comes out of there and takes cold air from the top of the awning room. So you're sort of recirculating air, but only recirculating it from the awning room, not the roof tent. The idea behind that is it's going to keep down a lot of the condensation because you're not recirculating the air from the rooftop tent. I've run these before in recirculation sort of setup, and the condensation is a lot more. It's better they take in fresh air, but you know, when it's -20, -25 degrees C, I'm not sure how good the taking in the fresh air and putting in the warm air will be. I've got a feeling it won't be great, and I tested it one winter, and you know, it has to work pretty damn hard. You have to have it on full bore, and it gets loud and it's not so good. So recirculation is better for thermal efficiency. Tonight though, I will have no awning room, so I will just have this one line going up into the rooftop tent. So this is the way I'm going to have it tonight. It's probably going to be about 0 degrees tonight, so it's not really cold. I don't need the diesel heater. My gear's well capable of dealing with 0 degrees, but I'm just keen to try it out before the winter kicks in. I just want to see what it's like up there. I'm going to run it real low. It's going to use absolutely bugger all fuel. But I'm going to have this as the intake, and it's going to go around there, so it's well away from the exhaust. And this is going to go up into the rooftop tent there, and I've obviously got the exhaust here, like an extension line. So the idea is I can basically move the exhaust kind of anywhere I want, really. You know, something like that. Have that on the end of there. And have it facing down, but it does, you know, it doesn't smell great, so I'll fire it up later when it actually gets cold. This is the kind of stuff I'm always looking for to make my life easy around a camp with regards to fire, especially in a country like this where you got predominantly a lot of spruce and pine and birch, and you know, you don't really have oak and ash and beech and other sort of hardwoods here, the broadleaf. So I look for the roots and basically pile up a huge pile of roots because they're packed full of resin, they're real dense, they burn forever. If you find a good one, it'll do the whole night, one fire, but crap for cooking on. You never really need to just like run a knife down a tree, a birch tree, and take the bark. I see it everywhere. You can always find a tree that's dead on the ground, or like this one here, it's just naturally shedding. And you get loads of this resin rich bark. so you're not harming the tree. I know I'm using a lighter. There'll be a lot of people who are disappointed in me who are from my other channel. But you know, I did drive here in a car, so can't really get out the primitive skills when you're rolling around in that. But anyway. Well, the fire's roaring nicely. Certainly not a very good cooking fire though. Great for boiling water, but those roots don't stop producing flames for hours and hours and hours, given all the resin inside them. But I really wanted a fire just to make me feel a little bit more homely. Kind of felt a little bit dingy around here. But I'm going to be trying out this white gas system tonight on the old Murdoka. So I'm going to be cooking up some salmon that my lovely wife gave me just before I left. Yeah, here we go. I think I'm going to get undercover. It's absolutely spunking it down. Sort of like, you know, it's what most chefs wish they could be this quick, really, but it takes time, it takes practice, you know. It takes practice. Old Father Weather's coming in. I think we're in for a rainy, windy night. Yeah. Cooking on these things gets, you know, you've got to get used to it, but it's pretty simple really. I'm just moving the rice out now. It's basically cooked. And then I'm just going to burn off a lot of this water. We'll cook off a lot of the water, and then a bit of oil, courgettes, do them, move them out, then the fish, and then lid on, let it all warm up, let it all kind of like the juices and stuff like get going in it, and then it's ready to go. It's a bit of a longer process, but it's one plate, you know, it doesn't really need cleaning or anything. It's just really easy, to be honest, for me. Well, it's the end of the day, dinner's done, I've squared away camp, last cup of tea. I mean, it's still early doors really, it's 6 o'clock, it's actually about 7 now, so you know, it's getting dark this time of year. It's not like where you see me out in the summer where everything's really bright and it's just constant daylight and you're just like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to fish till like 3 in the morning, and you know, your clock, your body clock goes out the window. But I thought while I was sitting here and just drinking this tea, I'd just touch on a question I get asked quite a bit on the other channel and on this one, normally through private messages on various platforms and stuff. And it's just about kind of like, how do you combat the fear of being out, you know, in the wilderness, in nature, wherever, and the fear of the dark and being alone. And I guess really it's kind of around loneliness. If there were 10 other people here, you know, and the average person would feel completely secure, but when you're on your own, your senses are going to be heightened. I think that's pretty normal. I mean, most animals kind of burrow away at night, and you know, the predators come out to play with their nocturnal vision and you know, and acute hearing and eyesight. So you know, it's pretty normal, I think, for most people to feel kind of a bit more kind of like on edge at night, because, you know, your vision is impaired, and your vision is predominantly, you know, how you detect oncoming danger, one of the ways. So essentially hearing and your eyes widen because, you know, you can't see, so you rely on other senses more than your vision, which is going to sketch you out a bit. I think it's pretty normal, really. I mean, I'm a little bit more kind of than when it's broad daylight sitting in this spot right here. And, you know, and I do things around camp to make me feel more comfortable, like I put a fire on. You know, I didn't do that because I wanted to cook on it. You know, maybe I'll do bananas and chocolate on it in a bit, but, you know, it's predominantly just to make me feel kind of more, you know, at home, really, at camp. You know, just to make me feel more at home. But, you know, in terms of answering that question, how do you kind of combat the fear of being alone? I think it completely depends on what country you live in. You know, are you surrounded by people? Are there a lot of people around? Are you in a woodland and there's like a housing estate nearby, or are you in the middle of Australia, you know, on some outback trip and there's nothing around? Are you in Africa? You're in northern Ontario? Are you where I am now in the north of Sweden? You know, I mean, it just depends. You know, here where I am, you've got bears, you've got, I guess, you know, there are wolves, but they're pretty rare. You know, you've got other sort of predatory animals. I guess you've got elk, which aren't really a predator, but, you know, they can be a problem anyway if you startle them. You know, so, you know, I've got things like that, but that to me has never really been a concern. You know, especially here in Sweden. You know, I've seen videos of curious bears in the spring, like charging up on people. Normally people with dogs and stuff, to be honest with you. You know, yeah, the young bears, you know, they don't quite know everything yet. Yeah, sure. I mean, this year's been a very bad berry season. You might attribute that to some things that could happen potentially, but most of the time human beings are pretty scary and animals want to stay away from them. You know, and when you make a fire and you make a lot of noise like I am and disturbances and stuff, animals' instincts are really to stay away from conflict unless it's the last resort, you know. So I don't really worry about animals so much where I am. I mean, if you're in the north of Canada and stuff, I guess, you know, in Alaska, you've got grizzlies and things, and it's a little bit different. Their mentality is a bit different than it is here, despite them being the same species, I think, on paper. But, you know, for me, the main concern really is human beings. This tends to be why when I go out on these little excursions, whether on foot or in vehicle and then on foot, you know, I tend to go as far away from people as possible. But you know, for example, back in the UK, I camped on the West Welsh coastline for a long time, and I hunted and hammock camped there. There was like a murderer not far from my camp that I always camped at, who just killed someone in the town up the coast. So, you know, he had a little encampment there, and I'm pretty sure I stumbled across that. It wasn't too far from the old fishing house that was down on that property. And, you know, I was kind of skulking around there with my gun, shooting pigeons and stuff at the time. You know, and that could have been a great opportunity for somebody like that to get a firearm and kind of snuff me out and get my equipment. So, you know, I'm amazed I even slept there, really, but I didn't know. I was none the wiser. So, you know, that's just kind of like a reminder that nature's not like, you know, like a fluffy pillow where everything's going to go okay. Yeah, in the human world, when something goes wrong, we're all in uproar because, you know, it's a controlled environment. Well, it's meant to be anyway. But out here, it isn't a controlled environment. You know, you're coming out here and you're packing equipment and gear and everything else because you want to be prepared to a degree in this environment for most eventualities. So, you know, that's kind of the reality of the situation. I mean, there is no safety net out here. You're the safety net, and your intuition of where you camp and everything else, and your research and your recon into the environment, looking at maps of their houses nearby. You know, have hunters been here? Am I going to disturb hunters? Am I going to go walking through the bush, you know, with an elk suit on when there are hunters out hunting elk? Of course you're not. You know, you can put yourself in dangerous situations, I guess. But for me, I think primary is human beings are the most unpredictable of that equation, really. You know, me seeing some bear shit over there that might not be that old doesn't really worry me that much. But you know, if there was like music going on over there and a load of young kids setting fire to stuff, yeah, of course I'm going to be a bit sketched out and I'm going to move camp. So it's kind of as simple as that, really. But you know, there are things you can do, obviously, to make yourself feel more comfortable. Just be prepared, do your research, have good equipment, you know, keep your wits about you, you know, just and get out there and do it, because if you don't, you'll regret it and life will fly by and you'll be like, oh, I never did that and I wanted to. And fear is a good motivator for people. You know, fear is a good reminder that you know, that not only you're alive, but you can overcome it, and it will only ever empower you when you overcome fear and you get out of those situations. So the world, it could be a lot worse. You know, solo camping is, yeah, it's very relaxing for me anyway. But yeah, there we go. That's just my 2 cents on it. Wow, let's see what happens. When it fires up, it does makes quite a bit of racket, really. So you're gonna have to see how this goes. You know, one thing to bear in mind, and you really should have a carbon monoxide detector with these things. Mine hasn't arrived yet. I did order one online, a new one. But it's just making sure that the intake is drawing in fresh air all the time and not the exhaust, and also not the smoke from the fire. I'm gonna have to make sure that fire's out, so I'm gonna put it out with some water later when I'm done with it. Because obviously the smoke might drift over here and it's going to be sucking in the smoke and blowing it in the tent, and then you're dying of inhalation. So you do have to be, you know, thinking about this sort of stuff. But yeah, it's like a flipping aeroplane when it's warming up. Well, I'm up in the roof tent, all tucked up in bed, and yeah, gonna hit the sack early. I mean, it's pretty dark out there, so there's not too much you can do. Fire's out, got the duct coming in through the wall there, a bit of ventilation, obviously here and there. It's, you know, it's t-shirt weather in here really, but not overly warm. So the diesel heater's on its lowest setting, about 1.5 hertz, so it's just kind of trundling in a bit of warmth. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's pretty good so far. I think if I've got it on its lowest setting now and it's like 0 degrees outside, then, you know, when it's -20, you know, I think it's going to be able to heat this place up very, very easily. It's quite a small space, and it's got this reflective material all over it, this particular roof tent, so I'm generally pretty hot in here most of the time. So yeah, see you in the morning, hopefully. Well, it's the morning, and it was a pretty sound night, although my sinuses still haven't cleared up. You know, I've got to have this for weeks now, so when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, can't think properly, can't see properly. But you can kind of see that things are drier than a popcorn fart in here, which was once a famous quote quoted to me by someone. Really dry, the bed's dry, under the bed's dry. I just checked everything really to see what the condensation's like. If you've got a foam mat, you'll probably find that underneath that foam mat there'll be condensation, but in my case I've got one of those like condensation mats, then the X-bed blow up mat, so everything's basically super dry in here. I do have ventilation still. This is open, the door's open a bit, a vent over here and a vent over here, so despite the diesel heater going, I still want air to sort of be able to get out and get in, you know, pretty easily. Let's have a look. I bet you it's going to be a damp day. Yeah. Just checking on the EcoFlow, and it's doing pretty good. That's with the fridge and the diesel heater, but obviously when the fridge kicks in every now and then it draws a bit of power, then it shuts off like it is at the moment. So that's pretty good. The diesel heater doesn't really draw much power at all. What the hell are you doing in there? Despite the heavy rain, this fire shall live to burn another day. So what that meant, that was really old English for the fire is probably still alive under there despite the rain, and that I must make a blanket to warmeth him back to life. Let us have a gander. Ah yes. Despite it. That's better. You may ask why such a big fire. Well, they start big and then they go very small. You know, then they're good for cooking on. So when that all burns down to ember, I shall get the Maruka on there, take the stove off first of course, and I shall do my pancakes and my breakfast on there. Bit of a rush last night, not much daylight, a lot of filming. That track was much longer than I thought it'd be, it took a bit of time. So yeah, take it easy today. Before this rain gets really bad, I think I'm gonna put this tent away because I don't intend to stay here for another night. I fabbed this up a little while ago on this plate because the idea always was that I wanted to be able to cook on an open fire, but now it's flipping stuck, isn't it? As soon as it's on camera it all goes wrong. Why can't that come out? Oh, there we go, yeah. So this is just a windshield thing. Remember, the stove just comes out like that, and you can sort of pack it away and go camping if you want with it. But yeah, the idea is now I can cook on an open fire. Leave that there for a while, it's going to get flipping hot. That's looking damn fine. Hell yeah. Well, that's it from me. I've got everything packed up and dried off as best I can. It's that kind of rain where everything just gets absolutely soaked, you know. It's tiny, fine droplets just in the air all the time, coming through with the wind. So, you know, everything is basically pretty wet. I don't like leaving it all closed for too long because you start to get mould, especially on the canvas awning. I find the rooftop tent material, that polycotton sort of synthetic stuff they use on these wildland tents, it seems to deal pretty well with drying quickly and not going mouldy, especially on the last tent I had, which was the same material. But I'll be making my way east now to an eco park. That's where I'm going to spend my next night before I go home. Beautiful place, been there before, seen me in there in the summer. Hopefully I'll do some winter stuff there too. Some pretty good fishing there as well, but I won't be filming that. That's going to be just reserved for me. I know that might disappoint some people, but it also might make a lot of people very happy if they're extremely bored at this point in the video. Well, I mean, you just switch off if you're really that bored, but you know, you have to be careful with filming. I don't film everything I do, because when you do that, it can ruin hobbies. You know, I've been there before. So, you know, to me, coming out and camping and hiking and fishing and going into nature and looking for mushrooms, this is all like real therapeutic kind of core stuff for me. You know, it really gives me a lot of energy, and you know, I don't want to lose that. So Thanks for watching. I'll see you very soon in another camping trip, and probably a little bit in the workshop too. I've just got one job I need to do before I get back out. And yeah, take care. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Alright, back we go. Oh, gross. Man.